Hello and a very warm welcome to the Big Bright podcast. I'm Amy, the marketing executive at Bright, and today I'm excited to welcome Adam Zullo onto the podcast. Adam is the CRM manager for On the Beach, and for those of you who haven't heard of On the Beach or have not been on their website, then you may recognise them from the recent TV ad featuring the one and only Iggy Pop. On the Beach are in the business of selling beach holidays, and on this episode we are going to explore the extraordinary marketing campaign that On the Beach executed during the pandemic and how they achieved a whopping 40% email open rate. And for anyone who doesn't know, the industry standard is 20%, so this is an incredible statistic that for any marketing team, especially during a time when holidays were basically non-existent. So let's get into it. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We're very excited to have you here, so thank you so much for joining. To kick us off, please could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what the day in the life of a CRM manager on the beach looks like, please?
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, so I'm based in the Northwest. I live just outside of Manchester, and the office for On the Beach is in Manchester City Centre, so near Piccadilly. But yeah, we're currently hybrid working, so the majority of it is at home, a few office days sprinkled in, and I think that'll be increasing a little bit from January onwards. I've worked in CRM space for nearly 6 years, starting out as an email exec, briefing and building emails, kind of moving towards managing databases and forward planning the whole CRM strategy. That's currently what we're doing at present day. So worked On the Beach for nearly 3 years as CRM manager, look after email push, SMS, and then some direct mail campaigns as well. We have a small team of execs, work on our trade side of the business with myself overseeing the work, which is kind of primarily what they're doing, but also the automation side. So things like abandoned baskets, scrapbook, post booking, ancillaries. And I also work closely with a number of stakeholders such as like product owners, contractors, data scientists, you name it, CRM kind of works with it. The industry as a whole, very exciting one. Obviously, it's seen a huge amount of trauma these last 18, 20 months, but travel is coming out the other side really strong and probably stronger than actually when it came in. And I mean, if you think about it, who doesn't want to book a holiday? But the good thing is about this role is you have a huge amount of responsibility. And if you have an idea, you can really make it happen On the Beach.
That's fantastic. Are you seeing lots of new bookings now that we're coming out of the pandemic, but also going into the colder months as well? Are people desperate to get back on the beach?
Yes and no, yeah. When we released our free COVID testing promotion, it coincided with the end of our kind of off-sale message. We decided not to sell holidays during summer due to uncertainty. We've obviously been through a period of nobody's booking holidays and things have been a little bit crazy, but it's kind of a period now where bookings do reduce up until you get to the peak of January. So we had the free COVID testing offer, it went crazy, everyone started booking holidays, but it's kind of petering out a little bit until we get back to that peak period.
So could you explain a little bit about what sets you apart from other holiday retailers?
Yeah, so I mean, we're technically like a mediator. We don't own any hotels and we don't own any airlines. So we basically package the deals together and then the customer gets hopefully the cheapest price. But the really great thing about On the Beach is that we hold our customers' money in a ring-fenced trust account. So this essentially means we can't access it until the customer has traveled. So in the case of refunds, we can hopefully give that cash back to the customer pretty quickly, which helps us to obviously build a lot of trust in the industry, which obviously over the last nearly 2 years has been kind of fraught with a lot of chaos.
Of course, yeah. So how do you send that message across to new customers? Is it on your website? Do you email them about that? Like, how do they know about that particular, the ring fence that you talk about?
Yeah, so it's on our website. You can find it on the home pages, but we also send welcome emails and as part of that journey, the welcome journey that you receive when signing up to emails, you'll see that within our content. And we do try and highlight it kind of within like USP bars, within emails, but it's something that, you know what, we don't gloat about it enough. Probably because we've not really had to gloat about it. Usually people book a holiday, they go on holiday and there's no cancellation. So we obviously do talk about it a little bit more now. And when you join our mailing list, hopefully you'll see that straight away as well.
What are the key ways you keep in touch with your customers?
Yeah, so our primary channel is email. It's cheap. Some still call it a free channel and as a way to communicate at scale and fast. But we do use other methods. So push is a great way to broadcast a message and it's also very cheap as well. SMS and direct mail, other channels that we use on occasion, but they're more expensive and therefore less cost effective. But depending on your audience and your message, they're also like a really great way to interact with customers and obviously other projects.
So how do you collect that information then on your customers, and how does that inform the messages you send out?
Yeah, so in terms of sign-ups, we ask for email address and in some cases first name. However, we mainly receive the bulk of the data from either a booking or what the user's actually doing on site. So if a customer is identifiable, then we can see what they are looking at, such as hotels, the board basis, where they're flying from, where they're flying to, number of days they're traveling. And when we receive this, we attach the data to basically a user's profile. Some places call it a single customer view, and personalize our content and our email content accordingly on what we've learned. Obviously, there's a limit to what we want to collect, and we're not going to collect data which could be seen as intrusive. So it is good to have limits on what you want to process. And also there's limits on what you're allowed to process as well. But being a small team, we tend to send our most engaged segments. However, we can use this behavioral data from on-site behaviors or even click and open data from emails to create smaller segments of who we may want to interact with. So for example, we know that an all-inclusive customer, they usually go on to repeat purchase another all-inclusive holiday. That can be in the range of kind of over 80% retention rate. So we know generally an all-inclusive customer wants to receive all-inclusive content. If we send them a room-only deal or offer or themed email, they're probably not going to open and they may unsubscribe. So it's about using that data that you receive, obviously in the sign-ups, but also the behavioral stuff that you see from when the user is actually on the site.
Brilliant. Well, it seems very logical to me. So if we go back pre-pandemic, what were the key goals you were striving for in your marketing, and what were the engagement levels like?
Yeah, our main goal was bookings. So we wanted to increase year on year by around 15 to 20%, which I know sounds like a big target, but we had big but very still achievable ambitions. Our content was recognizable to our audience and we were capturing market share really well. But it was first and foremost acquisition led. And that means flight releases, popular destinations, basically clickable content. And engagement levels back then, they were good, they were really strong, but not probably as strong as we are coming out of the pandemic. So we've learned a lot during the time of being basically off sale as well.
Yeah, so going back to when the pandemic hit, what were your initial reaction to the lockdown? Was there a lot of panic across the team? How did you adapt? And did you manage to adapt quite quickly?
It was a bit crazy. That's the best way to describe this. I mean, everything literally changed overnight. So we stopped sending emails. I think it was Friday the 13th of March. It feels like such a dark day, not just because it's Friday the 13th, but also because countries started to shut their borders. So it was a little bit panic stations, but at the same time it weren't. So the first about 3 weeks of the pandemic, we had to help our contact center in respect to, okay, Marrakesh has shut the border. We've got thousands of people that are due to go on holiday or thousands of people that are trying to come home. Let's send out a bulk email that can hopefully just tell the customers not to worry or actually go to the airport as quick as possible because Marrakesh is about to shut its borders. So there was some mad times and obviously we really had to adapt to that. And because we stopped sending emails, we did this becoming more at one with our kind of service communications. So when we sent out these comms, these service comms, we saw open rates in excess of 90%. I mean, this is understandable. A customer wants to know what is happening to their holiday, whether they can get home, whether they can go abroad. We noticed that plain text emails, something we reserved for post-purchase questionnaires and kind of privacy policy, update comms, we're seeing a huge spike in opens. And that's because they were landing in different mailboxes. So they were given higher priority. So when you send a plain text email, it can usually end up in a primary inbox rather than a promotions inbox. And you'll see that particularly on Gmail. And because of that, it meant that we obviously got higher opens. An IP reputation is probably something to talk about another day, but basically the more that someone opens an email and the more safe it is, the higher it'll either land in someone's mailbox or the less likely it'll be to land in people's spam. And that's what we found. We found that we were getting good reputation because we were sending emails that people really wanted to read. And because of that, we were getting fantastic open rates.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting. So were the emails like quite straight to the point and quite formal? What tone were you taking?
Those service emails, they were obviously serious because people's monies and whether the holiday was going to go ahead were basically being discussed within them emails. But we did learn a lot from that, and using things like the word important in subject lines, we noticed would get a higher open rate. So we basically took that learnings into our marketing plans that I think we're probably going to talk about a little bit later on, but it's something that we probably didn't take as much notice of pre-pandemic. until we actually had to live and breathe it during the pandemic.
As a whole, has it brought you all together, or are you more sort of working from home now and you're a bit distant? How's it been going?
For me, it was hard to adapt to at first. I loved being in the office, and I think being in marketing, and I think you'll probably know the same as well. Like, it's nice, kind of like that really good camaraderie. You feel like you can get some really good idea creation, and we were worried that that was going to basically disappear from working from home. But in all honesty, the team and senior staff made it easier and simpler for us to work in still a collaborative environment. And like, in addition to that, we have company-wide meetings with the senior team, and they keep us posted with new and interesting news in the travel and business space. We also had company-wide socials over Zoom, including like comedians come in. So that was a really nice change of pace, from the four walls of our home offices.
Oh, that's brilliant. Are you managing to get back into the office and have in-person socials now?
Yeah, we were in the office just this week, so it was nice to see everyone. We've got other teams coming back into the office as well, so it's nice to have that back on the agenda. And I think it kind of feels like you're like reconnecting with people, like long lost family or something, but it's good. It's nice to see everyone.
No, I totally agree. During the pandemic, you basically had to stop selling holidays. I watched you do your talk at the Festival of Marketing. You were talking about anti-trends. It was definitely like an anti-trend to do what you did during the pandemic. Can we break down the thinking behind what you did, and how do you know that this was the right approach to take at such a sensitive and difficult time?
I'm going to reverse a little bit further back as well. And I'm going to be honest, originally I'd say that we got our strategy a little bit wrong. So we stopped sending our highly bookable content and changed to content which we thought would increase engagement. So informative destination related emails, looking to target users who have either been or shown interest in that destination. So we were looking at, remember earlier we were talking about behavioral content, so their search and abandonment data. And we started personalizing emails with data customers have provided us with, and then segmented them based on who would find this content interesting rather than for broadcast messaging. But what we found is that although this content is really engaging for those who have been on site, it wasn't engaging enough to retain those who have not opened in a long time. So what we had to do is we had to then change our plan. So how do we keep our actives active, or at the very least within a window of activity? And we use information that we mentioned earlier that we learned from the service comms we sent out. So remember those 90% plus open rates? If you use words like important, you'll see a higher open. But not only this, we found that timely updates into users' primary inbox achieved much higher opens and engagement. So we know what people are opening now. How can we actually utilize that? We don't like to make it easy for ourselves. As you just mentioned, we stopped selling holidays, and it weren't because the industry weren't allowed to. It's because we took the decision to do that. So air travel's reopened, and as you mentioned, business took the decision to stop selling holidays. All airlines, holiday companies pushing for bookings in a market which has basically been parched for 12 months. We wanted the customers to trust us, and we won't be pushing you to go on a holiday when it could potentially be cancelled. And what actually did happen is we noticed that, I think it was Portugal at the time, they went back on sale for Portugal, all the other companies in the industry. 2 weeks later, Portugal got removed from the green list and put straight away back onto the amber and red list. And at that time, I feel like you're remembering this happening.
Yeah.
At that very moment in time, we'd obviously said that we're not going to be selling summer 21 holidays. So we really did come out smelling of roses, really. But because our database has become very perceptive to our updates on these government announcements, they've started really basically reading what we say. So we call them reputational emails, not a type of email we ever sent before. And that, as you mentioned earlier, was our anti-trend to start sending these reputational plain text government announcement updates. So when we send an announcement, they listen. Open rates in excess of 40% on our active list, and then our inactive lists, which are people who've basically not been engaged with us for over 12 months, they were actually close to 20%. So as you mentioned right at the start of the call, our inactive list are as active as some people's active lists. So yeah, this really allowed us to reactivate and re-engage our customers, and enabled us to basically increase our active engagement by around 53% over around 3 weeks. And then that led perfectly in time to our free COVID testing promotion.
Wow. And so was senior management on board with this?
Yeah, it was the company's decision to take holidays off sale, a very punchy strategy. So you can see we work for a company that is willing to listen to new and interesting ideas. But having said that, some of the reputational content came from senior management. And so when they take a risk, we believe we can take a risk as well. So for us, it was absolutely fine to do what we were doing because they were willing to take those type of risks. And obviously the company saw huge reward from it.
Yeah, so you're quite well supported. What does your top management team look like?
From a marketing point of view, we have our chief marketing officer who oversees both brand and performance. Got two directors at that level, and then it works its way down into we've got a brand team, currently only small, a head of strategy on that side, a brand manager, got a head of PR, and then on the other side we've got a head of data, got myself, CRM manager, and we've got a couple of other managers in terms of content and PPC. But we're a small unit. That's basically everyone, probably around 15 to 20 in the whole of the marketing team. For a FTSE 250 company, we are quite a small operation at present.
But sometimes that can work in your favour, right? So if you have like a smaller team, the more riskier decisions are more likely to go through because there's less people opposing them, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a small structure. There's only really a couple of people that you need to speak to try and get an idea off the ground. And again, mentioned earlier, I work with stakeholders across the business with the product teams in tech and development through to data science. So if you've got an idea, although there's limited resource, there is opportunity to just grab them all together and try and push that idea through. So it's a positive, definitely not always a negative.
Definitely. So what are engagement levels looking like at the moment? Are you still seeing the same level of interest, or have people just gone back on holiday and aren't really looking at their emails anymore?
No, yeah, engagement is still strong. But however, we are moving away from the opens metric, mainly due to the challenges the CRM community will see from the iOS updates. But the good news is that the industry is back to a place closer to pre-pandemic levels. And this means we can go back to our core objective, which is booking-led content.
You mentioned the iOS update. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? What does that mean for email marketers?
I'd say it's probably the biggest change that's happened in the CRM space for maybe the last 15 years. For anyone who doesn't know about iOS 15 and how it works, we can see when a user opens an email. So we can see down to the second within the data when somebody opens an email. And when you download iOS 15, you'll be presented with an option on Apple Mail, whether you want to protect yourself or not protect yourself. If you select protect, that'll mean that we as CRM, people who use ESP, email service providers, will no longer be able to see if you didn't open an email. So in that sense, when we send an email, we'll also believe that you've also opened an email if you're using iOS 15 and Apple Mail. So that causes like a huge issue, really. If your segmentation is based on opens, and a lot of people's are, it means that you'll start receiving more emails rather than less. So actually that protection from Apple Mail is not ideal because you're receiving a lot more comms from people. And if marketers don't adapt to that, they'll actually start seeing higher unsubscribe rates. They'll start seeing send time optimization issues. So again, email marketers, we have tools where we can send emails at the exact time that we think you're going to be opening that message. So there's a huge amount of problems that comes from this. So segmentation is going to have an overhaul. We were talking about behavioral campaigns. So I look after a lot of the automation. We were talking earlier about post-purchase communications, ancillaries. We use a filter to say if somebody's opened an email. Again, if we see that everyone's opened an email, we must be thinking that they might be engaging with that content or especially that subject line. So that again causes more problems for the customer because we might be thinking, okay, we'll send them another email because they opened it, when actually they might have never opened an email which was about the holiday booking and we didn't realize, and that didn't enable us to then send an SMS or a push to hopefully grab their attention to let them know about maybe some important piece of information. So it's a huge issue. I'm trying to make it sound as dramatic as possible because I think it is. But if people don't adapt to it, I imagine we'll see higher unsubscribe rates, we'll see less personal communications, and we'll be seeing people receiving the wrong messages on the wrong channels just because they don't have an idea of how they're actually opening.
Yeah, it's quite scary, really. And it's always a challenging time in marketing, isn't it? We'll include some links in the show notes and also in the blog post that we write up afterwards, so you can find out more about that. Okay, so going back to your marketing, could you give us some examples of the types of analytics tools that you use to test your marketing efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. So we split test everything. Most ESPs have A/B testing tools built in. You usually test subject lines, body copy, send time, as mentioned, although that might become a bit of an issue soon. In addition, we take a look at GA to understand the sessions and conversion rates, and our UX guys have tools at their disposal as well, so we can usually track how a customer is moving through their journey. So we've got a lot of tools at our disposal, and that enables us to create the best possible journey for a user.
So what are your top tips for marketers looking to ramp up their customer engagement levels, and if they're having any problems considering the last 18 months, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, I'd say this last 18 months has been a roller coaster, and therefore don't panic. You can have periods of time where your database is not engaged, but you can improve this when the message and the time is right. So yeah, although we saw issues where we saw our list really reduce in size, but we knew if we kept people engaged within a certain limit, the demand would return to the industry and we could really profit from it when we send correct messaging to them. But if you're looking to boost opens, I would strongly recommend sending emails which can land in primary inboxes, plain text, simple emails. Also including the customer's first name in the subject line will vastly increase your open rates. But test everything, because this might help increase engagement, but check it doesn't also increase your unsubscribes. So weigh up every positive, because there might be a disadvantage of doing something. And then if you're looking to boost your orders, try to add more personalization. If a customer has been looking at a turkey holiday, add a dynamic banner to your email which is related to turkey, nudge them back into that booking journey, and hopefully you'll see the reward of them making an order or a booking at the end of it.
Fantastic. That's really good advice. Can you tell us what email service provider you use, if you're allowed to?
Yeah, we currently use Iterable. We integrated with them prior to myself joining, but very good ESP, would recommend them. So Iterable, if you're listening, just £100 at the end of this call will be perfect. Thank you.
Well, that's fantastic. What is your top beach destination and why?
This is tough. We've been on holidays obviously pre-pandemic and loved them. But I would say Cos in October 2020, because it felt like freedom. We were obviously still in the pandemic. 2020 was a crazy year, but we found a week where we could just escape, go to Greece. It was on the green list and it was gorgeous. Blue sky, warm sea, plenty of gyros. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. But yeah, what more could you need? It was just fantastic.
Oh, sounds like a dream. Yeah, we went to Scotland recently for our first holiday. Scotland's beautiful, but it's just the novelty of being able to go somewhere after the pandemic, I think, really helps. What are your top 3 must-have items to go on a beach holiday with?
Stay safe, kids. Pack your sun cream. Always remember your sun cream. No, but joking aside, for me, it's a pack of cards. You're not playing Gin Rummy or Uno on holiday. Are you even abroad? So definitely pack some cards. And then just sliders or flip-flops. I mean, you can't go away without them. Don't forget your swim shorts. That's about it from me. Sunglasses. Let's not forget sunglasses.
Yeah, perfect. I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much, Adam. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope you enjoy your next holiday, wherever it might take you.
And yourself.
Thanks for listening to the Big Bright podcast. Make sure to subscribe to never miss an episode and check out our website at builtbybright.com.